The shocking truth behind my son-in-law's unexpected marriage, a daring plot for my home. Sarah's heart raced as she stood in the bustling nurse's lounge, coffee cup trembling in her hands. The talk around Maplewood flared like wildfire. Alex's sudden marriage to Jessica. The manufactured glamour she exuded, coupled with whispers of ulterior motives, weighed heavily on Sarah, gnawing at her chest. She had poured her life into building a loving haven in their family home, a sacred legacy held together with sweat and tears. Now, that sanctuary felt awash in shadows, threatened by the fascination of a woman whose past remained veiled in mystery. As she prepared to assess her evening patients, Sarah's thoughts spiraled. Her fingers clenched around the cup, heat radiating into her palms as doubt crept into her mind. What did Alex see in her? Was she really in love, or was the allure of the family home, its wraparound porch and faded memories, beckoning? The disparity between their lives felt like a chasm. Sarah, with her humble paycheck, scrubbing bedpans, lived in her reality, while Jessica glided through life like a whispered rumor of luxury. A punch of fear settled in Sarah's stomach. The history of love, resilience, and the essence of family made her question who this newcomer truly was. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The tension in Sarah's gut intensified with each passing day. Late at night, after Lily was tucked safely in bed, she found herself obsessively searching, investigating Jessica's past. The discoveries were like shards of glass, painful yet reflective. A mysterious previous marriage, a string of shallow relationships laced with grandiosity. The longer she delved, the more unease spiraled within her. Each late-night revelation tightened the noose of her anxiety, twisting her heart as she battled an urgent feeling, not just of protectiveness over her son, but of a home that seemed to be slipping through her fingers. When the family gathering arrived, the air was thick with unspoken tension, and Sarah's pulse drummed like a war anthem. She felt the weight of gazes as she stood face to face with Jessica, heart pounding with determination. "What do you want with Alex?" The accusation burst from her, laced with desperation to shield everything she loved. Gasps echoed around them, shocked relatives painted in anxious expressions, expectation hung in the air like a thick fog. But Jessica's reaction, a flicker of vulnerability in her bright eyes, left Sarah momentarily paralyzed. Beneath the grammar, a deeper, aching conflict swirled, making Sarah's heart waver. Why was Jessica, with all her allure, so afraid? The lovely disguise hinted at a world of insecurities, and Sarah felt her own heart crack, a tender ache mingling with her ferocity. As the evening spiraled into chaos, Mrs. Henderson, their wise neighbor, quietly appeared on the perimeter, her calming presence cutting through the escalating tempest. Sarah felt the weight of the world pressing in. The irrevocable tension thickened, hanging by a thread. Would she risk it all, her legacy, her essence of motherhood, for the bitter taste of protecting what felt increasingly distant? Standing on the brink of a chasm within her, Sarah faced a mounting avalanche of doubts. Could she learn to respect Alex's choices? Just as hope flickered, the doorbell rang, and dread settled in alongside a tremor of anticipation. Who could it be? Another unexpected twist awaited, one that threatened to fracture her already unstable emotional landscape further. The door swung open, revealing a figure that sent a ripple of confusion through the room. It was David, Alex's estranged father, the man whose absence had left a void festering between them. He stood awkwardly at the threshold, his rumpled suit doing nothing to mask the tension that had silently woven itself into the evening. Sarah's senses prickled at the sight. This was the last person she expected, a wild card thrown into an already chaotic situation. "David," she uttered, voice barely more than a whisper, caught between surprise and a simmering apprehension. As eyes turned to the newcomer, the air thickened, weighted by unspoken histories. I came to talk to Alex, David declared, his words heavy with urgency. The household, once alive with chatter, fell silent, and Sarah felt the tension snap like a taut balloon. The specter of their complicated relationship loomed large. It had always been fraught with disappointment and whispered failures. Here was an unwelcome reminder of her son's lineage, the part of the family history she longed to keep at bay. Her first instinct urged her to protect Alex, to shield him from the very man who had turned his back on him. But as the chill of David's presence seeped into her resolve, another part of her questioned whether Alex needed this confrontation to forge his own identity. "Can you not do this here?" Sarah's voice trembled, revealing her inner turmoil. "This isn't the place." But even as she sought to reclaim the peace of the evening, she recognized the selfishness of her plea. Would dodging this confrontation only set the stage for deeper rifts down the line? An unexpected contemplative moment passed within her. This was Alex's life, a journey she had navigated with him until this point. He was no longer the child she could bulldoze toward safety with maternal instinct. A part of her, deep within, wondered if stepping aside might allow Alex the chance to forge a path that was entirely his own. The room remained a chorus of hushed whispers, discomfort palpable like a fog. Jessica stood at the back, observing, her eyes glimmering with curiosity. Sarah turned to her, contemplating the dynamic that seemed to echo their own troubled histories. She sensed a shared vulnerability linger there. What if Jessica, too, was facing a similar challenge, trying to reclaim something from her past? With deliberation she hadn't summoned before, Sarah shifted her perspective. This was a call for a new resolve, not just for Alex, but for herself. She needed to step into a role that allowed for growth, even if it meant sacrificing the comforting boundaries she had established. A motherhood that grasped tightly might only stifle the very essence she cherished. The palpable weight of the moment struck her like a bell tolling. It was time to act, not just for her son, but also for her own development. Would she meet this confrontation not with accusations, but with open questions, revealing her willingness to understand? Could she transform her fear of losing her home into an acceptance of new beginnings? The realization coursed through her, igniting sparks of determination. The unraveling tapestry of her motherhood came with frayed edges, but could it mend into something she had never anticipated? Trust amidst uncertainty? As she cleared her throat, preparing to advocate for Alex and herself, the door creaked open again. A scandalous figure stepped through, cloaked in charisma, altering the trajectory of the night yet again. Sarah's breath hitched. Could this be the key to redefining her family's narrative? Her heart raced anew with the promise of an undeniable reckoning. The gust of the unexpected presence loomed over them, a striking dissonance threatening to shatter her fragile attempt at resolution. What would this new revelation demand of Sarah, both as a mother and a woman forged in complexity? The stakes were rising, pushing her toward a horizon filled with unknown challenges. Did she have the strength to face them all? The figure stepped into the room with an air of confidence, instantly drawing the focus away from David. He was a man with a presence that bordered on magnetic, a stark contrast to the unease that had settled after David's arrival. Sarah's heart quickened, not just from the sudden disruption, but from a deeper unease. It felt as if a storm was brewing, powerful and inevitable. "Who are you?" she managed, her voice steadier than she felt. The man's grin deepened, revealing a flash of charm that made her skin prickle. "I'm Ethan," he announced, seemingly unfazed by the tension simmering in the air. "And I've come to unleash some truths tonight." Sarah felt an urgency in his tone, a promise of confrontation that was only beginning to crackle. Was she ready for this? The thought churned uneasily in her mind. Years had conditioned her for battles she was always prepared to win, but this night bore uncertainty, shifting landscapes beneath her. "Not here, not now," she interjected, but her words felt weak in light of the waves of confidence radiating from Ethan. He met her gaze, assessing, yet almost empathetic. "But it's the perfect time, don't you think? We're at the crossroads. All these buried truths, they want to come out, and they will." What was he implying? Had he anticipated David's arrival, or was this just a coincidence, laden with coincidence? The tension swirled, filling every corner of the room, but Sarah felt an ember flicker within her, an urge to explore whatever Ethan had in store, however unsettling. As Alex stepped forward, confusion clouding his usually perceptive eyes, Sarah recognized a vital choice loomed. The urge to shield her son was intense, yet so was the need for him to confront his past, whether she liked it or not. The internal conflict raged. Should she encourage Alex to lean into this chaotic web, or pull him back toward the safety she had painstakingly constructed? "Alex," she started, her voice softer now, "this might be difficult." "I think it's already difficult," he replied, a wry smile creeping across his face. "But maybe it's also necessary." His words echoed in her mind, hanging heavy with both logic and insight. Perhaps it was time to step away from her instinctual reactiveness. Could acceptance be the key to understanding instead of aversion? Ethan shifted, amplifying an air of impatient anticipation. "Look, we're all connected in ways you can't see right now, but if you allow me, I'll show you that the truth will only bind you closer, even if it feels painful at first." Sarah felt the pull, an intrigue clawing at her mind, pushing her toward a decision. Over the years, she had built walls to protect not just herself, but Alex as well. But what if the act of holding on had only kept them further entrenched in cycles of shame and disappointment? Ethan's gaze flickered, sharply observant, as if he were peeling back her defenses with each shared breath. "This is about growth, Sarah, and you won't find it sweating under the comfort of the past." She hesitated, but that ember of determination ignited once again. Perhaps this was not just about Alex's confrontation with David. Perhaps it was an opportunity for her own reckoning, a chance to redefine boundaries and relationships, to rethink her role not just as a mother, but as a woman navigating a complex web of her own. The atmosphere crackled with energy as David stirred, shifting uncomfortably under Ethan's penetrating gaze. Sarah's heart raced. This was not just about Alex or David. It was about potential, transformation, and the unsettling beauty of honesty. Would she dare to embrace the unknown, to face the unsettling truths that had haunted all of them? The familiar echo of a challenge beckoned. The time had come to confront deeply embedded fears, revealing the resilience they could shape together. Yet, as the air thickened with possibilities, a sudden creak from the back of the room snapped her attention once more. A shadowed figure, another variable, entering this intricate equation, approached, the full complexity of their entwined lives. Poised at the brink of revolution. What did this new player hold, and how would it shift the fragile balance that was already threatening to rupture? Ethan's heightened presence permeated the air, and Sarah felt the room tremble under the weight of unspoken words. It wasn't just about David or Alex anymore. It was about a moment that could redefine everything she understood about her relationships. The shadow from the back emerged fully into the light, a familiar face from her past that sent shockwaves through her composure. The room held its breath, caught in a tension-laden pause. "Mom?" The voice, tentative yet familiar, rolled off the tongue of Michelle, Sarah's estranged sister. Her heart raced. Michelle had left years ago, seeking a life free from the constraints of family expectations. The complex history between them stirred in Sarah's mind, a thick fog of resentment, love, and regrets. This was not how she'd envisioned confronting her past. "What are you doing here?" Sarah's voice was a mixture of shock and irritation. "I came to see you. I heard about everything," Michelle said, her eyes darting nervously between Ethan and David. "I thought it might be time to talk." Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her, the walls of her carefully constructed safe haven crackling under the pressure of old wounds demanding to be opened. The arrival of Michelle felt like a slap in the face, a reminder of unhealed rifts that had long been buried. She caught glimpses of Ethan's approving smile, as if he were watching a play unfold, delighted by the scripts he had twisted into existence. A mix of emotions surged within Sarah, betrayal, disbelief, and an unexpected flicker of hope. Confrontation now sat at her doorstep, demanding an audience, whether she was ready or not. Perhaps it was not only Alex who needed to confront his past. Perhaps this was her own reckoning. "Not now, Michelle. This isn't the time," she snapped, panic rising in her voice. "Isn't it?" Michelle countered, her determination unwavering. "You've always kept me at a distance. Why don't we face the truth for once? You're afraid of what's buried, but maybe it needs to see the light." Ethan leaned forward, his interest piqued. "Sarah, consider this a catalyst. Sometimes it takes an unexpected voice to stir the essential conversations. Let her speak." The gravity of the moment hung in the balance. Sarah glanced at her son, who now watched her with an expression of apprehension mixed with curiosity. This was about her and Michelle, the unresolved tensions that had shaped both of their lives. Could she muster the courage to strip away pretense and engage with the woman who had so deeply disappointed her? "I don't know if I can do this," Sarah admitted, her voice breaking slightly. "Then maybe it's time you try," Michelle said softly, vulnerability creeping into her tone. "Maybe we can finally understand each other instead of being bound by our differences. I did it for my own growth." "Just like you need to." Each word wove tighter strands of tension, binding them all together. Sarah's instincts screamed at her to retreat to familiarity, to wrap herself in the comfort of denial. Yet a more profound sense urged her to step out of the old patterns that had tethered her to pain. This wasn't just a family drama. It was a pivotal moment of individual development, a test of her resolve to evolve, not merely endure. She searched her own heart, navigating through swirling doubts. What if embracing this moment with Michelle could untangle the knots of shame and regret knotted deeply within her? As seconds bled into minutes, Sarah's thoughts gathered momentum, fueled by a strange mixture of hope and terror. Would she allow the storm to break, to revel in the chaos of exposure? Her heart raced with a chaotic blend of fear and anticipation. Just as she prepared to respond, the faint sound of a siren echoed through the night, signaling the arrival of inevitable change. How many truths would unravel once she began to peel away the layers? Would she find freedom in the discomfort, or would reopening these wounds drive them deeper? The moment was ripe for possibility, hanging precariously in the air as Sarah realized the choice lay firmly in her hands. Could she embrace the tumult and face the truths waiting to break free? The tempest within beckoned to be unleashed. The silence was deafening, a heavy pause laden with the weight of every unspoken word between Sarah and Michelle. All the hurt, the misunderstandings, and the unhealed wounds surged beneath the surface, threatening to overflow. Sarah inhaled deeply, gritting her teeth as she fought against the urge to retreat into safety. "Fine," she managed, her voice steadier than expected. "Let's talk then." The words felt foreign on her tongue, a bridge she had long ago deemed irreparable. Michelle took a step forward, an almost imperceptible shift towards vulnerability, yet Sarah noticed how she hesitated. It was a truth embedded in their history. Both had shields of pride and pain, worn as armor against the world and each other. "Thank you," Michelle whispered, her gaze unwavering. This isn't easy for either of us, but it's necessary. Can we start with why you felt the need to push me away?" The question landed like a rock in still water, ripples of emotion expanding through Sarah's heart. Instinctively, she wanted to dismiss her sister's inquiry, to shield herself from the scrutiny. Why? Because Michelle chose freedom and left while Sarah stayed shackled by familial expectations. A flash of anger surged through her, but it was quickly quelled by a quiet introspection. As hurtful as Michelle's departure had been, could she shift the focus from blame to understanding? "You left us, Michelle," Sarah said, her words laced with the bitterness of unshed tears. "You chose to abandon everything we built. How could I not feel betrayed?" Michelle flinched, the truth pricking at old scabs. I wanted myself, Sarah. I didn't think that meant abandoning you. I just needed to escape the suffocation of our past, of what we were expected to be." A tense silence settled again, but now it felt charged with potential. Perhaps in this chaotic encounter lay a chance for revelation, not just for her sister, but for herself as well. Sarah felt her perspective beginning to shift, but could she sustain the vulnerability necessary for genuine connection? "I was afraid," she admitted, her voice almost a whisper. "Afraid of losing what I knew, afraid of being alone." The admission hung in the air, raw and exposed. Ethan's gaze remained fixed on Sarah, a supportive presence guiding her through this exploration of pain. His belief in her strength was a flicker of light amidst the shadows of her history. "We all have fears," Michelle responded gently. "I was terrified too, but I think we can both acknowledge our choices shaped us. I want to show you how I've grown, and I hope you'll share your journey with me." Sarah's heart raced anew, not just with apprehension, but with an emerging sense of possibility. This was no longer just conflict. It was an opportunity for the both of them to dismantle the walls they had built over the years. "What if we start with one small step?" she suggested, unsure but hopeful. "What if we each share a moment that changed us, something we've never spoken about before?" The room seemed to shift, becoming a sanctuary of hard truths and revelations waiting to be shared. "I'll go first," Michelle offered, visibly steeling herself for what lay ahead. The tender intimacy of the moment enveloped them, threading together years of separation. Not just as sisters, but as women striving toward understanding. As Michelle began recounting her past with raw honesty, Sarah realized the complexity of their experiences mirrored each other's layers: pain, independence, and ultimately the desire for connection. Each word stripped away more of their defenses, beckoning them closer to the truth. Yet beneath the deepening dialogue lurked the apprehension of unresolved conflict, the fear that forgiveness might not come easily. "Sarah," Ethan gently interrupted, his voice curling around them like a warm embrace. "In facing your truths with Michelle, are you also ready to confront other aspects of your life? You know, like with Alex and David." His question lingered in the air like smoke, weaving through the depth of their conversation. Sarah felt the heat of awareness wash over her, igniting a deeper journey within. Could this be the beginning of an entire tapestry being rewritten, a narrative not just about family, but about her own life choices? The sirens echoed again, a reminder of the storm outside and the tumult within. Would she have the courage to navigate through all layers of her experiences? The session was alive with tension, decisions teetering at the edge of revelation. As she moved toward confronting her fears, Sarah felt steadied by both the hope for connection. Feeling the shift of possibility, she took a deep breath, ready to dive into the complexities waiting to unfold. What essential truths lingered still, hidden in the shadows of her past relationships? The question imbued the air exclusively between them, a prelude to an unavoidable reckoning. As Michelle shared her story, Sarah felt the ground beneath her shift. Each revelation from her sister peeled back layers of bitterness, exposing raw emotions lying dormant within her. Michelle spoke of her quest for identity, the struggle to break free from family expectations that felt suffocating. Those words echoed in Sarah's mind, resonating with truths that had long been buried. "I felt like I was drowning," Michelle said, her voice quaking. "But the worst part was realizing that I had been drowning others in my chaos." The honesty struck a chord in Sarah. Was she, too, guilty of stifling those around her? In their childhood, she had often worn the mantle of responsibility, the caretaker of shared dreams and silent disappointments. But in doing so, had she inadvertently placed herself in chains? "I always assumed I had to do everything right, be the perfect daughter, the perfect sister," Sarah interjected, her words tumbling out with newfound urgency. "But that meant burying my own dreams. I thought if I took on everyone's burdens, it would somehow make me important." She caught a glimpse of Ethan's encouraging nod in her periphery, and it fortified her as she ventured deeper into her fears. "I pushed you away because I was terrified of losing you, terrified of feeling inadequate. I thought that if you left, I would have no choice but to follow, where I'd face my own insignificance." As they delved deeper into these fraught memories, Sarah felt a peculiar blend of liberation and vulnerability. A mask she had worn since childhood began to crack. It was terrifying, exposing these sentiments, but she felt something unfurl within her, a craving for authenticity. Michelle leaned closer, her expression thoughtful and earnest. "But you're not inadequate, Sarah. You are so much more than the roles you've been forced to play. It's time we both step into who we truly are." The weight of those words pressed against Sarah's chest. Could she truly shed the expectations that had shaped her life? The daunting reality of her choices loomed large, particularly her relationship with Alex. What if nurturing those relationships had meant compromising her own needs and desires? I am going to have to think about Alex," she admitted, her breath hitching at the thought. "I've been so focused on what others expect of me, I've completely let myself go." The journey of self-discovery had begun to look less like an open road, one she desperately wanted to travel. But could she face the critical conversations with Alex and David that loomed ahead, ones charged with the potential for conflict and confrontation? Ethan's voice cut through her swirl. "And remember, growth often comes from discomfort. Are you prepared for that?" The question echoed in her mind, intertwining with the awareness of the walls she'd built, not just for Michelle, but around everyone who cared about her. As she wrestled with the enormity of that realization, her heart ached with the need for change. Perhaps these revelations were the very catalyst she needed to forge a path toward authenticity. The storm howled outside, mirroring the tempest within. The moment felt profound, yet precarious. Michelle, however, was focused. "Let's not just share our stories. Let's set intentions going forward. What do you want, Sarah?" The question hung in the air, a pivotal moment brimming with potential. Suddenly, she felt like she was standing at the crossroads of her life, staring down both familiar and unfamiliar paths. Familiar voices whispered of obligations. The unfamiliar beckoned her to self-discovery. It was a moment of clarity and uncertainty intertwined. As Sarah opened her mouth to respond, a thought struck her like lightning. Could this revelation unlock the journey she'd been craving all her life? Bared by the weight of the answer, her heart raced. What could it mean to truly choose herself, and at what cost? A silent gulp of air steadied her nerves. Would she be able to commit to this radical honesty at the risk of upheaval? The intensity of the evening thickened as Michelle awaited her answer, their fates woven together in this pivotal moment. A knot tightened in Sarah's stomach, a reassurance that sometimes the hardest paths led to the most profound destinations. "Michelle, I think I'm ready to confront my own truths," she finally whispered, understanding that this was just the beginning. The potential for everything to change hung unspoken in the silence that followed, pregnant with urgency and expectation. How would Alex and David react to this new Sarah, one who sought authenticity over approval? The storm raged outside, but within, a quiet resolve began to take shape. It was time to face the unsettling aftermath of her choices. As Sarah braced herself for what lay ahead, she felt the power of revitalization surge within her, the beginnings of a newfound determination. What awaited her on the other side of this reckoning? The question lingered in the air, a provocative stirring of curiosity and fear, pushing her closer to a confrontation she could no longer avoid. The morning after the storm, the sun broke through the haze, illuminating the disparate corners of Sarah's life, the corners she had long kept shrouded in shadow. As she sat on the edge of her bed, the warmth felt foreign yet inviting. She ran a hand through her tangled hair, reflecting on the enormity of her commitment the night before. With her heart pounding in her ears, each beat seemed to echo, "It's time." Ethan's face flashed in her memory. His steady gaze had reminded her that growth often began where comfort ended. Today, she would take what felt like a monumental step. Professionals call it difficult conversations, but to Sarah, it felt like facing down a dragon. The fear coiled tightly in her chest, a tangible entity reminding her of all the times she had sidestepped challenges. The conversation with Alex loomed closer than ever in her mind as she brewed coffee, the rich aroma mingling with the dregs of self-doubt that lingered. Finding the right words felt akin to standing on a precipice. One misstep, and she feared plummeting into an abyss of misunderstanding and conflict. Yet, dictating her future was more important than the dread of uncertainty, she reminded herself. She wiped the sweat from her palms on her jeans, acknowledging the task ahead was rooted in both risk and necessity. As she sat at the kitchen table, her phone buzzed, pulling her focus. It was a message from David wanting to discuss plans for the upcoming family gathering, an event that held an unspoken weight for Sarah. Family gatherings had previously been a blend of joy and tension, and every detail often felt like more of a burden than a celebration. She felt a familiar pang of obligation flutter inside her, but today it felt different, remarkably lighter. Should she postpone the gathering? Would that show honesty or cowardice? She sighed, a flicker of resistance igniting within. It was time to take charge, not only of her affairs, but of the misguided expectations from those around her. Deliberately, she tapped out a brief reply. "Can we talk about the plans in a bit? I need to sort through some personal things first." With each decision she made, the tightening in her chest eased slightly, allowing a new spark of courage to kindle in its place. She took her cup and stepped outside to the small patio. The sunlight caressed her face, and she closed her eyes, grounding herself with each breath. Today was the day she would bring her authentic self to the forefront, no longer wearing masks crafted from the fabric of duty and expectation. Briskly, she dressed and decided to visit the park, an open space that echoed her yearning for freedom. On the way, she considered her main concern, telling Alex what had been gnawing at her, the sense that she had lost herself to the demands of being his partner. She imagined the conversation tumble through various scenarios in her head. Would he understand? Would he feel threatened? Would this change their relationship forever? Arriving at the park, she inhaled deeply, pulling the fresh air deep into her lungs. She would have to be honest without being cruel, expressing her needs without attacking his. It was a delicate balance, one that required clarity and vulnerability. The faint chatter of children playing nearby intertwined with her thoughts, reminding her that growth often involved stepping into the unknown. Determined now more than ever, she settled beneath a large oak tree, taking out her notepad. Writing her thoughts down provided an anchor, calming the storm of feelings within. Each word she penned became a step toward clarity, revealing desires long buried under layers of appeasement. Just as she revised a phrase that felt inadequate, her phone buzzed again. It was a video call notification from Alex. He was ready to talk. Her heart raced. This moment had arrived much sooner than anticipated. Would she hold her ground, or would she revert to the person that sought to please instead of assert? As she took a deep breath, preparing to face the unknown, the query coursing through her was not just about the conversation ahead, but rather, what would Alex's response reveal about their relationship? The video call connected, and Alex's face filled the screen. Unbeknownst to her, the answer she sought would not only be a reflection of their history, but a window into her own uncharted future. The stakes couldn't feel higher. Would it lead to understanding, or would it fracture the fragile peace she had built? As the familiar backdrop of his living room came into view, she felt the weight of choices pressing against her chest. The moment was at hand. The moment to confront her truths was about to unfold. How would Alex respond to the new direction Sarah sought to take? The screen flickered, and for a heartbeat, Sarah found herself lost in Alex's expression. He looked at her expectantly, an unreadable mix of warmth and worry clouding his features. Time seemed to slow, as she prepared to bridge the precipice between her fears and her truths. The comfort of past conversations was stripped away, revealing the raw vulnerability of the moment. "Hey," he greeted, his voice steady yet probing. "You okay?" "Yeah, I have something important to talk about." The words stumbled out, suddenly feeling monumental, heavier than she anticipated. "Sure, what's on your mind?" He leaned in, his eyes narrowing slightly, as if trying to peel away her insecurities. Sarah's pulse quickened. She had envisioned this moment countless times, crafting and refining her narrative, but now raw emotions surged forward. "I think we need to talk about where we're headed, about us." "Us?" he echoed, his brows knitting together in confusion. "What do you mean?" She inhaled sharply, drawing upon the courage she had carefully welcomed that morning. Lately, I've felt a disconnect between us. I've been losing a part of myself in trying to keep everything together, and I'm not sure it's working anymore. The weight of her admission hung heavily in the air. She searched his expression, looking for signs of understanding, dread, or perhaps even dismissal. She needed clarity, but she also feared what he might say. "Losing a part of yourself?" he asked cautiously, the surprise written all over his face. "What do you mean?" There was a flicker of frustration in his tone, igniting the shadows of uncertainty within her. Could he not see that her heart was laid bare, begging for recognition? "I feel like I've been living for everyone else, for you, for your family's expectations. I can't keep doing it. I feel lost." She held her breath, steeling herself for his response. The moment rode the edge of vulnerability and confrontation, a tightrope walk between honesty and the fear of fracture. "I didn't realize you felt like I feel lost." She held her breath, steeling herself for his response. The moment rode the edge of vulnerability and confrontation, a tightrope walk between honesty and the fear of fracture. "I didn't realize you felt like that," he replied, his voice strained but quiet. "Why didn't you say anything before?" "It never felt like the right time," she said, frustration brimming again, this time directed inward. "I kept thinking that I could manage it, push it aside. But now I really can't. I need to reclaim myself, and I need us to reassess what this actually means." His face was a canvas of confusion, and it unsettled her more than she anticipated. Did he truly not grasp the depth of her struggle? "Sarah, I'm trying to understand, but it's hard," he admitted. Pain flickered in his eyes, and she recognized the internal battle budding within him. "What do you want from me?" Those words lingered, inviting a storm of emotions: fear, hope, anger, and a glimmer of possibility. This was where she stood, unshielded, confronting his expectations as well as her own needs. "I want to have an honest conversation about our relationship, about what it means to grow together without losing ourselves in the process," she replied with newfound steadiness. He leaned back, crossing his arms as if trying to shield himself from the intensity of her revelation. "You know I love you, right? I've always wanted what's best for you." She nodded slowly, even as doubt flickered beneath the surface. Love shouldn't dim individuality, it should illuminate it. "And I love you too, but that doesn't negate my feelings of disenchantment. I need us to reshape what this looks like, or I'm afraid we'll drift apart." His silence was a chasm filled with uncertainty, and Sarah's heart ached at the prospect of losing him, or, worse yet, losing herself. "Can we start with what that might mean?" he finally asked, his voice softer, more tentative. A thread of hope began weaving through the tangled mess of her thoughts. Perhaps this conversation could lead to something transformative. But as Sarah prepared to explore their future together, fresh doubts arose. Would Alex be willing to embrace such change? The realization hovered like a question mark, a query stretching out toward the unknown. Could they navigate this tumult together, or would they continuously reel under the specter of each other's expectations? As they sat poised on the brink of revelation, Sarah resolved to push for clarity. The stakes were high, and the answer could redefine everything. What direction would they choose? The air in the dimly lit room grew heavy, wrapping itself around Sarah like a shroud. There was a tension that pulsed between her and Alex, a flickering flame of uncertainty that could either illuminate the path forward or set everything ablaze. She could feel the walls closing in, every second dragging on, amplifying her nerve-wracking anticipation. "Okay," she said finally, the word a tremor in her voice. "Let's break it down. What does growing together look like to you?" The question hung between them, palpable and demanding. Alex's brow furrowed in concentration, the lines on his face deepening as he wrestled with her inquiry. "I guess I always thought it meant being a team, supporting each other through everything." The sincerity in his voice was evident, but beneath it was a tinge of unease. He was grasping for clarity just as desperately as she was. "But does support mean losing sight of who we are?" she pressed, the urgency in her tone increasing. "Because I've been losing pieces of myself, trying to fit into the mold of what you need and what I think others expect. I can't keep doing it." His expression shifted, and she noticed a flicker of recognition in his eyes. "I didn't realize it was that deep for you. I thought you were happy," he admitted, his vulnerability tearing through the air. "Was I?" she challenged, feeling the weight of years spent compromising swirling around her head, a fog of doubt battling against her newfound resolve. "I've tried to be, but happiness shouldn't feel like a distant echo of your voice. It should be vibrant and alive, and right now it feels muted." Alex's gaze faltered, and for a moment Sarah feared she was losing him to his self-imposed constructs of love. Would he accept the truth, or would he default to wanting what had always been? "Maybe we should reevaluate together what it means to be happy," he suggested cautiously. "What if we both take the time to explore our individual needs first, and then see how that shapes us?" Something flickered within her, an echo of hope, as if a door within her was creaking open for the first time in ages. "I'd like that," she breathed, surprised at how simple yet profound the concept felt. But as the sense of approval warmed her chest, another wave of apprehension rolled in. Could their relationship withstand the raw exploration of independence while maintaining the essence of their connection? That was the crux of it. "I'll admit," he continued, his voice steadier, "I've been scared of losing you too. I always think of how fragile this all is. But if we both step back and, I don't know, discover who we are outside of each other, maybe that would strengthen us instead of tearing us apart." "Exactly," she responded, her heart racing at the potential of what lay ahead. "It's scary, but I can't help but feel that we'd be more resilient if we faced ourselves first." Silence enveloped them again, but this time it was charged with the potential for change rather than despair. As she looked into his eyes, she began to see reflections of uncharted territories. Their journey ahead could not only save their love, but also reignite the light within both of them. Yet there was one looming question still swirling in her mind. What if unearthing their true selves revealed a chasm between them that was too great to bridge? What if the exploration only highlighted the differences instead of celebrating the truths? "Can we keep this conversation flowing without putting pressure on our future?" she asked, a hesitant hope lining her voice. "A journey toward individual growth for both of us?" A soft smile broke through Alex's earlier uncertainty. "Absolutely. Let's take this step by step. We'll be in it together." As they began to sketch a tentative map of their newly defined relationship, Sarah couldn't shake the gnawing sense that while they were stepping into the light, shadows lurked at the edges. Would this path of discovery unite them, or would it fracture their foundation? The answer was unclear, a mystery for their hearts to unveil. But one thing was certain: the road ahead would demand courage on both their parts, and she was ready to confront whatever challenges awaited. As they clasped hands, sealing their pact with a touch, a haunting thought resonated through Sarah's mind. What if some truths were better left uncovered? They were about to embark on a journey of revelations, and she couldn't help but wonder what unseen forces would come to play as they navigated the complexities of their true selves. Days turned into weeks, and an unexpected transformation began to weave its way through Sarah's life. The conversations with Alex had ignited a new fervor within her, a relentless determination to redefine her role not just as a mother, but as an individual worthy of her own aspirations. She identified the depths of nightmarish fears lurking beneath her surface, fears that had propelled her life on an autopilot of duty. Now she moved with intention, crafting each interaction as an exploration rather than an obligation. In her conversations with Alex, she discovered unprecedented layers of empathy and understanding. They established a rhythm of vulnerability, where each honest dialogue guided them toward new horizons. As both began to navigate their individual journeys, Sarah felt the weight of expectations shift, liberating her from the pervasive shadows of comparison and conformity. They consciously approached their relationship with renewed care, no longer codependent, but nurturing their independence, which fortuitously strengthened their bond. Slowly, her relationship with Alex unveiled new dimensions. One sunny afternoon, they explored a local artisan market together. The air was animated, filled with laughter and the sense of fresh-baked goods. As they roamed, Sarah spotted a stand showcasing handmade pottery, each piece uniquely vibrant, resonating with her newfound zest for life. Picking up a small vase, intricate in its design, she realized it represented her journey, a transition from confinement to expression. "Look at this one," she exclaimed, an unrestrained smile illuminating her face. "It's like it was crafted from chaos, but turned into something beautiful." Alex observed her, a smile creeping across his lips. "I see you. This growth suits you, Sarah." His affirmation wrapped around her heart, weaving a sense of belonging and validation. In that moment, she understood that growth wasn't merely about change, but embracing every nuance of her identity. The pieces of herself she had thought lost to the ether were re-emerging, like wildflowers breaking through a concrete surface, unfettered and unapologetic. As for David, their tentative exchanges transformed into moments of understanding. He, too, had started to mend old wounds with Alex, bridging the chasm that once seemed insurmountable. The respect, slowly restored with fragile yet earnest conversations, reinforced Sarah's belief that disclosing truths liberated not just her, but the entire family from the confines of their past. "You have a chance to rebuild what you lost with Alex, David," she remarked during one of their discussions. "It'll require patience and honesty." "It's time," he replied, with newfound clarity. "I've wasted too many years." Their whole dynamic was evolving, allowing for hard conversations about mistakes recognized, love acknowledged, and bridges slowly rebuilt. They began meeting weekly, each session an open forum of exploration, guided by a commitment to resilience. On an impulse, fueled by counteracting memories of constraint, Sarah accepted an invitation for a public speaking workshop at work, a key component of her new identity unfolding before her like the petals of a flower greeting the dawn. The anxiety she had once clung to morphed into a rush of exhilaration, a testament to her evolution. On the day of the workshop, she held a small narrative in her hands, her story of reclaiming herself amid chaos. Standing in front of the mirror that morning, she caught a glimpse of someone she barely recognized, a woman who had emerged from the ashes of expectations, confident and audacious. She wore a bright yellow dress that flowed, its color mirroring her inner transformation. As she stood there, eyes scanning the room, she felt that surge of warmth running through her veins, the undeniable presence of assurance. With each recounting of her journey, the weight of her words wrapped the audience in a communal understanding. "Learning to unearth my identity amidst the chaos didn't just free me, it liberated my family. It made space for all of us to grow." When she stepped off the makeshift platform after her talk, applause erupted around her. Validation poured in with each round of applause, igniting a robust fire of confidence within her. "You were incredible," a colleague beamed as she walked past, eyes sparkling with sincerity. "Thank you. I wanted to share not just my truth," Sarah replied, "but inspire vulnerability in others." That validation felt transformative, solidifying her place as a catalyst for not just her growth, but others too. The journey forward unfolded with newfound clarity. Sarah's life became an intricate tapestry woven with threads of bravery, resilience, and joyous independence. No longer did she cling desperately to preserving a home. Instead, she redefined home as a sanctuary of acceptance, growth, and evolution, a place where each family member could thrive in authenticity. As dusk fell one evening, she and Alex sat together on the patio, drinks in hand, laughter punctuating the air. "So, about the pottery," Alex quipped. "Where do I fit into this chaotic beauty you're creating?" "Right here, by my side," she said, laughter trailing off into a comfortable silence, firm in the belief that they were both irrevocably changed, capable of embracing their new narrative, one that celebrated each other's journeys while intertwining their paths. Thus, the prospects of their future began to shimmer brightly, a beautiful realization that through individual growth, family ties could be enveloped in strength, resilience, and above all, love. This was the moment they had achieved together, soaring high on the winds of transformation. Now, it's your turn to embark on your unique journey of transformation. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that inspire growth and resilience. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let others find these empowering narratives. Comment your reactions and theories about this transformative journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion and inspire them to unlock their potential. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second.